Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in again. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about these guys. As the man at the boat ramp about an hour ago called them my spider legs, I figured I'd do a quick little episode about them because I still get questions all the time. You know, the guy at the boat ramp today wanted to know what they were for. So I kind of went through the process of explaining to him that they're hydraulic anchors and that the idea is that they hold you in place when you're out on the water. But honestly, they are so much more than that. You know, I remember when these first came out, I was a very early adapter here in central Wisconsin, and you got a lot of funny looks. And at this point now, they've really become almost a normal thing to have on a bass boat. In fact, a lot of your, for sure your high-end bass boats come with them as a stock feature when you purchase the boat. And that's how important these are. But they're not just anchors for fishing purposes. Obviously, they really do come in handy when I'm out there fishing. You know, whether I'm fishing down a bank and I want to put my power poles down and just hold me in place, I can absolutely do that. And they do very much help when it comes from a fishing standpoint in terms of anchoring me in place. But that's not the only thing that I really like them for. You know, I actually feel like they're almost as important from a fishing perspective in terms of slowing me down when I've got a heavy wind or I'm drifting. You know, in the old days, what a lot of people would do is they'd throw a drift sock over the side of the boat, which was one of the most annoying things ever, in my opinion, to use. And ever since I've gotten these, I've never used a drift sock since. And really that just has to that comes down to the fact that I can drop my legs in the water and they'll slow my drift down by about half. And if I want to slow them down even more, power pole actually makes the drift paddle, which attaches on and will slow me down even more. But what I found over the years is that I can really slow my speed down just with the legs themselves, just with the power poles themselves. That really helps me fish through areas where otherwise you would drift through significantly faster and therefore not be nearly as efficient on the water. So from a drifting standpoint, I love these things because I can use them to slow down my speed. If I'm drifting just a hair too fast, I don't have to drop them all the way in the water. I can drop them just so that the spike itself is in the water. If I want to slow myself completely, I drop the blades. These are 10 footers. I'll drop them all the way down in the water and they'll slow me, like I said, by about half. So there's so much more than just an anchor for fishing purposes. But if I'm looking outside of that, there's a bunch of other things I like to do. One being, I live right here on the Wisconsin River. And for me, I love these things because I actually use them as guards for my cowling. And what I mean by that is I like to get into the wood, I like to beat the bank, and when you've got heavy current, the boat gets spun around quite a bit, and I'll utilize these to basically act as a protective measure for the cowling. You know, if the cowling gets scraped up or you put a hole in it, that's a really expensive item to fix these days. I'd much rather get a couple of scrapes on my power pole blades versus punching a hole through the cowling. So I'll use them that way just as a protective measure. The same thing comes true when I'm launching at tournaments or at the boat ramp in the morning. You know, if you're talking about your bigger tournaments where you have 100+ boats, a lot of times what guys do is they'll just back the boat in and launch it in the water and let it float, as we like to call it. And then at that point we'll go and, you know, park the truck, come back, and you're hoping that your boat hasn't floated into another boat or into the dock. And really what guys will do now is you'll get to the ramp and you'll lower these down to about where I've got them right now, where they're not holding on the bottom, but you launch your boat. So if your boat is floating around, it's going to prevent your motor from bumping into somebody's boat or bumping into the dock and doing damage that way. So it's a really nice little tool just from the standpoint of being able to float the boat. Same thing goes or holds true for just boating in general. You know, whether that's pulling into the boat ramp so that you can anchor your boat without having to tie it up and spend the extra time, and you can go grab your trailer, back it in, your boat doesn't move. Maybe it's a matter of pulling up at a restaurant to have dinner with your family. You can just throw the power poles down and it holds it in place without having to tie it up at the dock. Just a simple tool to allow you to really make sure your boat is anchored, but not really from a fishing standpoint. It's being anchored at the shore so it's not going to float away. And the last really key feature that I want to mention here, and again, this comes more into play as a professional angler, but there are times where you have to get back to weigh in, and if you have boat issues, guys in the past will let their boat just float, or you have boat troubles and therefore maybe you don't have a trolling motor, maybe the big motor's not working and you're in a strong wind and you're floating into the bank. You drop these power poles down and you might get to a point where you get to 6-8 foot of water, but your power poles are down. They're going to catch bottom at some point. And from a safety standpoint, if you have no power to your boat, you're going to get to a point where your power poles will keep you in place and not allow your boat to wash up on the rocks. If that happens, you're probably talking about a full insurance claim, and you can prevent that by simply having power poles on your boat. So for me, these are not even an option anymore. These are something that I absolutely have to have on my boat. I remember when I first got my first one, you put one in the water, and then I saw a guy running 2 of them, and I was like, what do you need 2 of them for? And it was, well, because if you get just one, you will spin a little bit. So ever since then, I've had 2, and I don't think I could ever have another boat without them. So hopefully this answers some of those questions, because I think if you were to talk to most anglers that do have power poles, it's one of the most frequent questions we get while we're traveling around. People will come up to us at the gas station or wherever on the road and be like, what are those things on the back of your boat? Hopefully that answers some of the questions regarding what I use them for, because that's not just fishing related. Thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.